Okay, I don't see anyone else on the schedule. Does anybody else want to speak before we get to the last speaker? I have to, because people have been putting their names on and off all afternoon. Okay, the last speaker, Mayor Tory.
Well, Madam Speaker, thank you. I'm going to come back to this, but I almost rose on a point of order or a point of privilege or a point of complete consternation when I heard Councillor Wong Tam just now referring to real people who worked in her office, people she knew and her relatives in Scarborough, and how this is not going to help them, and it's okay for those kinds of references to real people to be made. But when I talk about real people that have actually made deputations, students from the U of T Scarborough campus, others in front of the executive committee of the city, in good faith, people I've never met before in my life and nobody else has.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wong Tam, do you have a point of personal privilege?
My point of personal privilege, Madam Speaker, is I did not speak directly to the Mayor or what he was saying. Those were my own comments.
Okay. Right. Mayor, yeah, going to
I do have a motion, by the way, Madam Speaker, which seeks really to just make sure there's no delay on the design of the bus terminal while the examination of possible private sector involvement is looked at by our staff. I've tried to keep my focus through this discussion on what I genuinely believe to be true, and that is, yes, this is a very large investment. We've talked about that over and over again. I'm the last person that would deny that. It's a significant investment, and that's how we must look at all of these investments as being large, but then we have to look at the large within the context of the long term. The long term. Over that long term, this express subway extension, taken together as part of a network transit proposal for Scarborough, so it includes the LRT. The notion that we're going to sort of say we're writing off the LRT or let's forget about it, or, there's no one saying that. There's a couple of people who have suggested that that's the posture because at the moment we don't have everybody's funding secured for everything. But it's taken as a network proposal, which does include Smart Track, which is going ahead as we speak. There's work being done on it as we speak. There is $150 million, as Councillor Davis said, that has been set aside by Metrolinx for the relief line. And so all of this and work being done similarly on all of these projects. But in the end, it's about providing better transit service, good transit service to people in all of Toronto and indeed including Scarborough. But it's also about what we need to do to make sure that Scarborough has its fair chance to attract jobs and investment to the Civic Centre, in particular that area of Scarborough, which I think will be the first to reap the benefits of the jobs and investment that will come from investments in public transit, as well as significantly enhanced transit service for the people of Scarborough when all of the parts of this network transit plan are put into place. I stand by not stories that I made up, but accounts of real people who I have met, many of them, and I'm sure there are others in this room, especially those from Scarborough, who have been out taking the time as I have to listen to people out there. But I stand by as well deputants that you will have seen as well. You, I mean my colleagues on council, Madam Speaker, because they appeared. And the students from the U of T who came and said, this subway extension to Scarborough Civic Centre will reduce the time it takes me to get to and from school. I have no idea why those people are to be treated as illegitimate in their opinions and why we're supposed to not listen to them because they're not experts and because they didn't write up a formal report that somebody, that somebody funded. I don't understand that. They talked about these things, and I have merely talked about the total travel time that people talk about as well, which has to include the time spent on the bus, yes. It has to include the time spent on the platform, which many people, if you go out there, will tell you they spend waiting for the LRT. And then they'll tell you about a train that will go by that they can't get on the LRT. And then they will tell you they get on the LRT and they have to switch to the subway. And all of that has to be taken into account. And somehow when I raise that, that's not legitimate. That's not consistent with whatever studies are floating around out there. Well, that's what these people have said to me. I think it's an extraordinary day. An extraordinary day. And I address this in particular, through you, Madam Speaker, to the comments of our colleague, Councillor Layton, who said this is somehow a return to buffoonery, that people might be quoted, real people might be quoted about their real-life experiences using the current arrangement, and it won't be much different if there's an LRT there connecting up to the subway. It's the same thing, and I just think it's the ultimate, where what's happened is real people have become fake news. Real people have become fake news. I don't understand it. But the real issue is back to jobs and investment. What is going to be the best to attract the jobs and to attract the investment and to build up this part of the city? So, frankly, not as many people have to take transit somewhere else to work. They can work in Scarborough because more people have had the confidence to locate their businesses and their jobs there. More people will choose to live in Scarborough than live in Scarborough today. Lots of people, I hope, will live downtown and go to Scarborough to work because it will become a much more vibrant part of the city in terms of the economics. I will just make two more comments because I'm running out of time, Madam Speaker. Number one, of course the announced federal money is not enough. And the whole notion, we were having a discussion today where people were parsing the federal money and saying, is it enough to pay for every project? I'm the first to concede, by the way, at the same time as I commend the federal government for bringing this funding forward, that it isn't enough. They didn't say it was enough. No one ever thought it would be enough. It has to be combined with money we've got to get from the province and combined with money that we have to put up ourselves, and we now have to revisit that in light of the road toll, the unfortunate road toll withdrawal of support, not from here, but from elsewhere up the street. And I would just hope that some of those who are expressing such grave concern about this funding would join me in talking about the need to get the province to step up and match what the federal government has done. We could check the records, Madam Speaker, on the internet and see how many people in this room that had a lot to say about all that today have had much to say in support of what I've been doing month in and month out about the province needing to step up and fund transit in the city, including, in particular, the very projects we've talked about today, the Scarborough East LRT, the Waterfront LRT, and the Relief Line. And so I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm waiting for the time and the energy to be invested that has been invested in having this debate over again. Because let's be honest about it. That's what's been going on here. It isn't, as Councillor Cole just said so well, a debate about the bus terminal and the alignment and the procurement, which is what this report was about. It was the 8th or 9th or 7th or 12th time we were relitigating this issue and saying, should we have a subway or an LRT in Scarborough? And I think if we were just honest about that, I'd certainly feel better. And I will make a final point, and thank you for giving me the 1 minute, Madam Speaker, and that is this. We've got to get on with this, and we've got to stop fooling ourselves. I accept the fact that as we go along, there will be reports like this that come forward to say, well, we have to talk about the bus terminal and the alignment and the procurement. But that report doesn't say anywhere that I read in it we're going to have a re-debate and a re-decision and a re-litigation of the LRT versus subway discussion. We've had that 8 times. I think this is the 9th. Count it any way you want. It's too many because we've got to get building. We've got to get building. People elected us to build transit in this city, not to debate transit endlessly. That's what happened in previous decades. And so I urge my colleagues to support the recommendations contained in this report. I'll support a couple of the motions, but I will not, with regret, support Councillor Matlow's. I do not believe that is going to advance this discussion from where it is today and where it needs to be in terms of getting transit built in this city. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. We do have questions for you. Councillor Matlow.
Madam Speaker, Mayor Tory, you have said over and over again that you believe in making evidence-based decisions, that you believe in using facts to inform what we do. Yet, you just spent a good chunk of your speech somehow trying to justify your speech yesterday when you said that the one-stop subway extension in Scarborough would save residents 15 to 20 minutes each way. You then suggested, even though experts don't say that, they say quite something else, that because people say it, some people say it, some people, by the way, don't say that.
Hey, Councillor Matlow, your question.
That somehow we've just got to go with that. Can you point to a single report or any expert advice that can substantiate the comments that you made in that speech?
Madam Speaker, the reason I can't point to a single report that substantiates precisely what I said is because I don't believe there's a report that's been written on exactly what I made very clear, especially to the media in talking to them after the speech, which is I was talking about total travel time. And when I made reference earlier on after the Executive Committee to people who appeared in front of us, they were real people. Look it up on the tape. And they said, students from U of T Scarborough campus, for us, getting to and from school from the minute we leave home until the minute we arrive at school or vice versa, it is going to be a significant saving of time.
But this is
no, I'm sorry. You get to ask and I get to answer.
Allow the mayor to answer.
I'd like to.
So there hasn't been a report written that looks at that. There's reports on the change between being able to ride seamlessly on the subway and not having to change from the LRT. There's reports on how much time people spend on the bus. I don't know how those could be written with absolute authority either, because nobody knows exactly where the buses will come and go from as yet. But having said all that, there hasn't been a report written, but you do have a person 2 seats to your left who himself has said from where he lives it's going to save him 15 minutes, I believe he says. You have these students who said that. You have lots of people that I've met. I didn't take their names. And so I guess what I'm saying is I find it a very strange world where those people know their own travel experiences to date, and they can relate those to me and to the Executive Committee in a formal deputation, and that somehow they're to be treated as completely illegitimate, not just by you, but frankly by journalists who almost accuse me of lying by citing these people, and that I'm just saying, well, I certainly want to give them a listen, and maybe we should get a report on total travel time.
Hold on for a moment. You're saying it's a strange world where we don't take expert advice, and we don't look at numbers, data, and facts, but rather we take a few deputants' belief based on a subway that has not been built that they will save a certain amount of time, and that's what we should use as an argument to justify going in this direction. I don't. Are you listening to yourself? Seriously,
Madam Speaker, I am saying to you that, first of all, no one knows for sure what the timing is going to be on this, but I certainly don't discount. I'm not saying that I accept those people as having the absolute truth any more than anybody else has absolute truth. Why would academic studies be taken as absolute truth either? I am saying that on this entire project, the network transit project, that I do take the word of our planning staff who came forward with this and said this would assist in the jobs and investment and the revitalization of the city centre of Scarborough, and they supported this when it came forward last summer. I am saying that I certainly believe that the experiences of people that I've heard from by the hundreds are worthy of consideration and certainly have an impact on me when I talk to those people, and I take the trouble to go to Scarborough many, many, many times to listen to them.
That's not what you said. You were using it as an argument. You were suggesting that it was a fact. And
well, for those people, it is a fact.
No, but that's
Madam
not
Speaker.
what you were saying. You were to those people. To those people, it is a belief based on a subway that has not been built. It's not a fact just because you say it's a fact or because you infer it as a fact.
Matlow.
Madam Speaker.
Okay, hold on.
Facts are not subjective.
Councillor Matlow, if you have a question, please ask the question.
No, but he just did, Madam Speaker, and I will just say that he's talking about the fact that I'm talking about travel times for a subway that hasn't been built. Well, every single one of these studies that you refer to with such enthusiasm are studies that are concerning a subway that hasn't yet been built. And so I'm simply saying, all I've been saying all the way through is that, yes, the studies are relevant, and I heard them being referred to by our staff today, and I listen to them and I read them as you do, but I'm also saying there are people who are telling me that aside from the time frames referred to in the study, they believe, based on their lived experience and their ongoing experience and their projected experience, based on how far away the new subway stop at Scarborough Civic Centre will be for them, that they're going to save 15 or 20 minutes a day, and I'm quoting what they've said to me. Some of them in a public forum where you can look it up.
No, Councillor Matlow, your time is up. Councillor Matlow, your time is up, please. Councillor Davis, question.
Thank you, Speaker. You may not believe it, Mr. Mayor, but I am concerned about the costs. And you seem to think that we're all tax and spend, but I am very concerned about the amount of money and how far it will go. And so
Okay, come on, Councillor de Bearmaker, please. Yes.
if you could hold my time while Councillor de Bearmaker controls himself.
Okay. Go ahead.
So what we've committed to here is not 3.25. You would agree that it's actually $3.876 billion when you take into account the extra costs of the bus terminal, the financing fees, the IO fees, the management scope reserve, the construction cost risk reserve, and the schedule delay risk allowances. It comes to 3.876.
No, I actually won't. Madam, are you done? Because I fear you.
I just want to ask if that's the number we should be saying is the what we're committing to here?
No, it is not. I don't have the
Okay.
document in front of me, but I think the number was it 3.56 billion, or that, I think it was that with the bus terminal included. And of course, we haven't decided on the bus terminal yet. But what I'll say to you is this: you have taken at the